you'd think that after 11 games, we would see a more cohesive offensive unit on the field, but we are still talking about a team with Super Bowl aspirations and a guy who's been to more Super Bowls than any other human on the planet and looking like he's 23, just physically, just passing the eye test. He looks like he's 23, not 43. But still, having an inability to hook up with the best group of talent he's ever been surrounded with all due respect to, Antoine Smith and David Patton, and we could go on and on, right? I mean,
sure.
That's a Pro Bowler in Mike Evans. That's a Pro Bowler in Chris Godwin, and they both scored last night, and still we're talking about what's up with this offense that can't seem to run the ball with any significance to balance out an attack that needs balancing, despite Antonio Brown and them being in the mix and Rob Gronkowski being in the mix. I mean, you've got two future Hall of Famers, one surefire in Gronk and one that we could go back and forth on, Antonio Brown, receiving passes from a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer and the two reigning Pro Bowl wide receivers for the NFC out wide, and we're sitting here today saying, what's wrong with the offense? And part of it has to do with the guy on the screen, TB12. He doesn't look comfortable, Kurt Warner has said, and I trust his Hall of Fame eyes watching a film. We asked it of Bruce Arians literally 1 week ago today when Bruce was on the show, and asked him if he would agree with the assessment that Brady does not look comfortable in this offense. He said yes. I said, when do you think he'll start looking comfortable in the offense? He chortled and said next spring, and I think, that's one of those jokes with the old germ of truth in it. The offensive line is banged up, but guess whose offensive line is also banged up? Los Angeles Rams lost their left tackle last week, and not just any left tackle, one of the greatest leaders this game currently has on any franchise, which is why, when the Seattle Seahawks saw Andrew Whitworth go down, they went up to him on the cart too. They lost their left tackle. And the running game was not terribly existent last night for the Rams, and that's part of the problem for the Bucs defense as well. The Bucs defense is a stout run defense, but their game, the Rams' offensive game, works off of all the play fakes and the play action passes, and then the boots off the play action passes, and they basically have about 3, 4, 5 formations and run a whole bunch out of it, and they stopped the run. I mean, Henderson and the law firm of Henderson, Akers, and Brown did not light anything up, but Jared Goff sure did. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp had days last night. Jared Goff threw the ball 51 times. That's normally like, okay, they're down by 15 scores and they've got to do something that's out of character for them, but he was terrific last night. Jared Goff, and in case anybody's wondering what got into Jared Goff, he's done this before. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the game that you rarely hear mentioned. Top 10 quarterbacks. Name your top 10 quarterbacks in the league. You rarely hear Jared Goff in there. But everyone else has to know, if you're unaware, Jared Goff appeared on this show last week. And that is the Rich Eisen Show bump right there. We take credit. Boop. No, but Goff sliced him up. Absolutely sliced them up. And in the second half, when the Bucs defense began to cement their pass defense and also put pressure on Goff and pick him off a couple of times, Brady and the offense couldn't do anything with it. They only got 3 points off of a turnover on the plus side of the field. And if there's any question about what I've just said, yeah, Rich, it's still Gronk and Evans and Godwin and Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, and it's Tom Brady at the controls. On paper, that is amazing. That's why I chose them, certainly with Arians coaching them up and Todd Bowles being the DC. Why I chose them to win the Super Bowl this year. That's why I chose them to win the Super Bowl this year. If there's any question about whether there's a problem or something's off, all you need to know is the following. With less than 3 minutes to go last night, in field goal range, with Jared Goff lighting it up, with Jared Goff, yes, threw a couple of interceptions in the second half, and that would concern you if you're a coach not wanting a turnover and you've got 3 points staring you in the face to take the lead. But Jared Goff, at will, finding Cooper Kupp, at will, finding Robert Woods. And you can scheme people open if you're Sean McVay, and you know that. But with less than 3 minutes to go last night on 3rd and long, Sean McVay handed it off and basically, tapped out on the drive. Brian Griese, who was calling the game last night, was a little mystified, trying to find any sort of logic in that to say, well, I guess if he had gained 6 yards and made it 4th and short, he would have gone for it, which makes no sense, to be honest, because what are you going to pass up a chip shot field goal to try and move the chains? Normally you would. That's the sort of line of thinking that would kind of even a slight bit make sense if the old Tom Brady was on the other side of the line of scrimmage. On the other side of the field. I've never seen a team say to a Tom Brady quarterbacked offense, and thus to Tom Brady himself, there's more than 2.5 minutes left on the clock and a 2-minute warning thus being handed to you in a 3-point game. Go for it. See what you can do. Honestly, Chris, you've spent 20 years watching this.
Yeah, it's
20
weird.
years watching TB12 football. So have I. And he is the GOAT. Period. End of story. No matter how the rest of this year plays out. But a coach of a team last night said, I'll just boot the field goal
I'll give it back to you.
and give the ball back to Tom Brady and Evans and Godwin and Brown and Gronk and Arians. No risk it, no biscuit. How about it? Now then, this is also part of the reason why the Rams are dangerous. Not that Sean McVay is nuts or the good right kind of nuts, but Aaron Donald and the rest of that defensive line is top notch, and Jalen Ramsey's on the back end shutting off half the field. And then you got this kid Fuller who's picking off Brady twice last night, as it was pointed out. I get it. Ohio State picked off Michigan. I get it.
Wasn't he picked 199?
He's also picked 199 in the 2020 draft, picking off Brady, pick 199 of the 2000 draft.
Pretty good.
But that also shows you Brady's staying power and greatness in his staying power. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.